did Tesla leave us clues when he said, to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration? Is there really sacred information contained within sound? Come on, let's resonate the Akashic records. Alright, welcome back to Accessing the Akashic Records, episode 11, Sacred Sound, Sonic Geometry. Now this will be the last in my Sacred Science trilogy. Now to understand sacred sound, we must go back to mathematics and geometry again. So the oldest known math comes from the Sumarians, who actually give credit to those who from the sky came, as they call them, also known as the Annunaki, or in the Bible the giants known as the Anak. They give them credit for this sexigesimal base 60 mathematics. This is where they use 9 fingers in total, with 4 fingers on one hand and for the units and 5 on the other, which is for the multiplication by a factor of 12. Now, thus we have measurement for time in base 60, time like seconds and minutes and things like that, and months in 12. However, the majority of our maths has moved away from that and is from that natural mathematics and moved into base 10 mathematics, which obviously has a massive flow-on effect. And if you've watched the others in this trilogy on sacred mathematics in particular, that'll make a lot of sense. You'll understand how we've moved away from that sacred mathematics, which explains the possibility of a lot of things. Also with sacred geometry, how that information is not part of the mainstream education systems, and therefore that flow-on effect of how physics and everything is done these days is really outdated, or not outdated, it's been altered, because we've had this knowledge previously. It's somewhere along the way there's been a degradation or some kind of co-opting where it's been changed. It's bringing up a lot of roadblocks for us. I know it's not musically related, but this information will become relevant later. Alright, here we get into some of the music. Since Pythagoras, we've had an understanding of how deeply related sound and music is to geometry, mathematics, and also light and frequency. He gave us the Pythagorean tuning of C 256 Hertz, also more commonly known today as A 432 Hertz tuning, which is in line with sacred geometry and mathematics. I've been covering all of that in previous episodes, so please do go back and watch them, or else this may not make a lot of sense in some areas. So it all fits in with the geometry of a sphere, base 9 vortex math, the phi ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. As you can see here in the diagram, we got the Fibonacci 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. We got the notes the musical scale through the octaves, and the relationship of colours and all that. I'll get into it more deeply in a moment. And you've got the chromatic scale. Yeah, let's dig into it more. So, first of all, speaking of the Fibonacci, here at the top you can see the sums of the angles of the Platonic solids and how they increase by the Fibonacci sequence. And as they do in complexity from tetrahedron to dodecahedron. So 144 for the tetra, 1152 for the dodeca. And at the bottom we have the chromatic music scale and how this fits in with the vortex math and Fibonacci. Here you got like a yin yang, 3, 6, 9. My daughter's yelling at each other in the background. And yeah, the vortex mathematic symbol there within this symbol also, and it's also set up as the chromatic scale, as you can see there for the notes. Yeah, the positive and negative, there's a lot to it. I'm not going to get into all of that. And then down here you've got the octaves and your notes and their partner higher up the octave, so in frequency going up, and they all connect beautifully with their higher octave partners. So you can see how deeply connected all these systems are, and why I put this trilogy together for people to see this deep connection throughout our creation that is expressed through many of these ways, through geometry, math and sound. Now this base 9 maths in relationship to music and geometry goes much deeper. Here in the highlighted numbers show the sum of the angles of our Platonic solids and other geometric shapes, and you can see they also make up major chords. So the tetrahedron is 720 and is the F sharp, and you can see the cube is 2160 and is C sharp. Then the octahedron is 1440 at F sharp, so there. And you got, yeah, and the octahedron. The icosahedron is 3600 at A sharp, there at the end. And altogether you get the F sharp major chord, which is a perfect harmonic chord. So coincidental? I think not. So you can literally write music based on this geometry and math, just as many scholars of this information have done so already. This also works perfectly in octaves, so you can simply double or halve the number to get the next octave, but the same note. Just like I've talked about in my densities and dimensions episode about consciousness evolving through perfect octaves, this is just another way of expressing that concept, and how it's a creative principle woven into this third density experience. Now note, this math does not work in the modern universal tuning of 440 Hz is a base 8, so it's slightly off, and why it doesn't have the perfect compatibility with nature. Nature is 432 Hz. You can look that up yourself. Again, you can see how base 9 and 432 Hz are deeply connected here from the square root of the speed of light, which equals 432, which can be reduced by a factor of 9. The precession of the equinox is 25,920 years, or even the respiration in a 24-hour cycle. As you can see here, average number of respirations per 24-hour period is also 25,920. So you divide that by 60 seconds or 60 minutes, and it also equals 432 Hertz. Now, how do I come up with that? Well, interesting to note here for those who are into ufology like myself, back in the 1950s, an alien contactee named George Van Tassel. He was given this advanced mathematical equation, among many other things, of course, but this equation is F, or frequency, equals something divided by time. So now when you look back, you have something which is either precession of the equinox or respirations in a 24-hour period divided by time gives you equals frequency. So frequency equals time divided by something. So that's how we come up with that. So, and that's how we've been given this equation. So it's not always known how these kind of mathematics comes to us, but when you do dig into it, you find that they have extraterrestrial origins. Whether you believe them or not, that's up to you. You can take their word for it that they came from Anunnaki or these beings that came from somewhere else, or you can choose not to. It's fine. You can say, oh, these people just came up with it. That's up to you. So when we look again, those equations, like I've also spoken in about the vector equilibrium there, and that's in the last episode on sacred geometry. That mathematics there works out, works out to be 432 hertz as the frequency also. So you divide it by 12, equaling 36, or which is base 9. So the 432 again with the base 9 vortex math grid there. You come up with many different equations that are very interesting, but please look into vortex mathematics if you haven't already. Now, sound and light, or colour, have analogous frequency properties in that the 7 colours of the rainbow, or the spectrum of light, correlate to the notes in an octave. So as you can see here on the lower graph, you got C through to B, which is an octave, have their relating colours, also related to the chakras, no coincidence. And it's based on their cycles per second, or hertz frequency. So that means the exact mathematical ratio is exactly the same as between each note, as it is between the colour of the spectrum or the rainbow. So here's another great graph for you to see the relationship between colour or light, frequency or hertz, and musical notes again. So you get those frequencies, a lot of them being very geometric, so you can also create the geometric shapes out of those mathematical numbers.
Can we have some kids? Yeah.
Sure, baby. I'll be with you in just a moment.
Even we.
Now I know I'm getting okay. If you can,
yeah,
all right, off you go, darling.
I pinned it.
All right, baby. Now I know I'm just showing you a lot of different versions of the same information, but it gives you such a different perspective when you connect these different things, or I guess these languages, if you will. Now I'm a musician, so I absolutely love this stuff, and after this one I've got one more for you. So there you can see the spectrum of light and colour. You've got the degrees for geometry, and you've got the hertz for sound. So, alright, baby. Don't eat too much. So for my fellow musos out there, we can again see a different version of the relationship between light, colour, frequency, hertz, geometry and notes within the different octaves. So, certainly stuff I love, and hopefully musos out there enjoy this also. Take from it what you will. I won't go into it too deeply. Again, I'm just trying to convey a large spectrum of information and get you to search for yourself. So Dr. Hans Jenny, if you're not familiar with him, he did a large amount of experiments with sound called Cymatics. This is where he added sand to water, and then he applied different sound frequencies to that medium, and it resulted in geometric shapes that are nothing if not extraordinary and astonishing. So here you can see along the bottom what each note looks like. The bottom of this graph, there you got A. They're the different octaves of the A and frequencies, and that's what each of the cymatic sounds come up as. So note that the geometry from the flat note to the higher octave sharp note increases in complexity, but has very similar geometric shapes. So, for example, you look here at B sharp and B, you got still maintains that star shape. C also has a star shape that's maintained. You got what here in E sharp and E, you got these triangles there. Now there's many places that these same numbers that have strong relationship to sacred geometry, sacred sound and sacred mathematics, where they hold a significance quite often of a spiritual nature. Now there was, for instance, 144,000 pure white casing stones on the Great Pyramid, as you can see there, which would have been quite beautiful. Parables of the 144,000 who will save Earth or be saved from Earth, depending which translation you subscribe to there in those tales. There's also 144,000 days in the Mayan long count calendar, which also within the long count calendar are geometric numbers for its cycles. And those ages or yugas are very in line with the base 9 or 432 hertz frequency, being the frequency of nature. 144,000 divided by 432 is 333.33 recurring, and that 33 is a very well-known, well-used number within ancient mystery schools and secret societies, alchemy and things like that. So basically all this information really can be found in ancient mystery schools and secret societies. So we're left to wonder why. Why is this only found in the secret teachings and not throughout the mainstream education system? Is this some kind of conspiracy here? Of course it is. Well, the answer may be found in the harmony and coherence that 432 hertz gives over 440 hertz, as well as a few other aspects which I'll discuss here. So if you remember back to my Electric Universe episode, I spoke in depth about coherence and harmony between the heart and brain, and so now you can see how music is actually out of sync with the natural intention of 432 hertz. You may already realise the atmosphere is absolutely riddled with like radio waves, Wi-Fi, TV, various mobile phone bandwidth signals, and many other not so nice things that are all interfering with our natural brainwave states and coherence. So has all this been done intentionally to keep everyone in an unnatural, incoherent state, or is this simply just a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that our math is out of line, our music is out of sync, our natural brain states are out of sync by all these things. And all these alterations have really very recently, in the grand scheme of things, been altered. Well, that's for you to decide. I'm not going to tell you to think these things. I'm simply laying the evidence out as I see it. But it doesn't really look good. Like we've had all this information in the past. We've experienced these golden ages, these yugas of times where we interacted and had interacted with beings from elsewhere and gave us extra knowledge. We understood the oneness of ourselves. I know I say this at the end of almost every episode, but it needs to be said. There's these things going on that need to be changed. We need to revert back to the times when things were in line with nature. So, again, knowledge is power. Now you have more power, so go forth. Put it to good use, please. I encourage you to dig deeper into these topics by looking in the description box below. That is, if you're watching it on YouTube. Hit like, subscribe, and leave some love in the comments. Consider helping out if you can by supporting this channel, as it does eat up a lot of my time, and I'd actually love to spend a lot more time doing this, as teach learning is my sole purpose. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please don't hesitate to contact me. Accessing the Akashic records on Facebook or minds.com. Leave it in the comments section. Hit me up on YouTube, whatever way you want to contact me. It's all in the description box below. Anyway, until next time, much love, namaste.